Hi, I'm Benjamin Haibe-Kains. I'm a senior scientist at the Princess Margaret Cancer Center at the University Health Network. I'm the director of data science at the Structural Genomics Consortium, or SGC.
How would you describe your research to a general audience?
So my research involves using artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques, both to understand the genomic makeup of tumor and how they respond to drugs, but also more recently with the Structural Genomics Consortium, how to use genomics and high-throughput chemical screening technologies to discover new chemical matters that can bind to proteins. And once we can inhibit those proteins, hopefully we can develop new therapies.
So you serve as the director of data science of the Structural Genomics Consortium. For those who may not know the organization, what is the SGC and what role does it play in advancing biomedical research globally?
So the Structural Genomics Consortium, or SGC, is a international consortium meant to understand how proteins can be inhibited. So proteins are really the main actors in the body, and most therapies today are actually chemical compounds that can inhibit those proteins, so modify their usual behavior. This is true in cancer, in Alzheimer's disease, in any human diseases. And so SGC has the mission to not only identify and purify those proteins, but really screen billions and billions of chemical compounds to understand what is potentially binding, so attaching those proteins. And once we find those, it's kind of early hit discovery. When we find those simple kind of chemical matters, then we can optimize them into real drugs. So SGC is really meant to be a consortium doing open research, open science on this very, very early step of drug discovery. And I would like to emphasize the open science perspective. So SGC is very unique in the sense that it works with a lot of academic and pharmaceutical industries, as well as other types of industry partners all over the world in a completely open fashion, meaning that all the data, all the technologies developed in the consortium are shared with the public in a timely manner. So we really hope to move the field forward by sharing as openly as possible all the contributions and the deliverables of the consortium.
AirCheck is one of the initiatives under the Structural Genomics Consortium. Could you explain what the project is about and why researchers believe it could play an important role in the future of AI driving drug discovery?
So recently, SGC, as the whole world witnessed the rise of artificial intelligence in drug discovery. And if you look at the AlphaFold story, this AI model developed by DeepMind at Google, what they've done is they leverage very large amount of protein data that have been curated and accumulated by the scientific community during decades in a completely open manner. So they were able to use those valuable data to generate a model that can fold the protein, so predict the 3D structure of proteins solely based on the sequence. And AlphaFold changed everything in the sense that the model was able to predict the structure of virtually all the human proteins, which was never done before. And that really relied on both the availability of the data and advances in AI. When it comes to hit discovery, understanding how chemicals bind to proteins, we still require massive amount of high quality data for AI to really shine. And so that's what SGC is trying to do here, is to generate those high quality data at scale to realize the full potential of AI for drug discovery. And in that sense, SGC became a major data enterprise. So we developed a platform called AirCheck for AI-ready chemical knowledge base. And the idea was to collect all those valuable data and make them AI-ready. So we control the format, we document the data, the metadata, the dictionaries, and the ontologies that we use, so that those data are processed in a uniform, harmonized manner and make them ready for any kind of AI analysis. And now we're inviting the community to leverage those data to develop more AI models, to share those models back to us. And so that's what this AirCheck platform is about. It's not just sharing harmonized data, but also running AI models on those data in a completely transparent, reproducible, and reusable manner, so that we can really move the field forward at the exponential pace. So really kind of create an AlphaFold moment for drug discovery.
So now that you are talking about data, what types of data are generated and analyzed through EarthCheck, and how can access to computing platforms such as MyResearchCloud help accelerate this kind of research?
So we are betting on a few technologies that are currently the best in terms of throughput. So the number of chemical compounds we can investigate, and also the quality of the data. So we first invested in a technology called DNA encoded libraries, or DEL in short. And those are basically, it's a technology that's able to screen sometimes dozens of billions of compounds. So we're really at the level of billions of compounds. And they're all kind of tagged with a small DNA sequence. So think of it as a barcode. And once they bind to the protein, we can read that tag to understand which chemical compound was kind of attached to the protein. So very exciting technology that was developed probably a decade or slightly more ago. And we're also investing in another technology using mass spectrometry. So it's called affinity selection mass spectrometry, and where we can screen up to 500 million compounds, so a much lower throughput, but the quality of the data is really, really good. And it's a technology, we use a version of the technology that has been developed at University of Toronto. It's now being scaled up in multiple sites all over the world. Once we get those two high throughput chemical screening technologies up and running, now we are basically also investing in scalable hit validation. So we use lower throughput technology where we can test a few dozens, maybe a few hundreds of those compounds, but we can do it in a very precise way. And that's the kind of test that the pharmaceutical companies are using internally to decide how, if a drug or if a chemical compounds will move forward in terms of lead and drug optimization. And so all those technologies generate massive amount of data, but we also pay a lot of attention in the metadata. So we try to record all aspects of the experiment that could be important for AI modeling. And we share all those data back to the community. So not only they have the data to train the AI models, they also have the data to validate the AI models, the same way pharmaceutical companies would do internally. So it's really this combo of high throughput data to train the AI model and low throughput data to do very, very robust validation of the hits. That's the combination that makes EarthCheck very unique. Plus, again, the fact that we run AI models at scale so that if somebody develop a new model, they can check with previous models to see whether they do better across multiple benchmark data sets.
Yeah, so how can access to computing platforms such as MyResearchCloud help accelerate this kind of research?
So as you may imagine, this massive amount of data, the development and implementation and running of sophisticated AI models at scale, that requires tons and tons of computational resources, not just storage, but most important, a lot of computing power, so CPU and GPU. Those are the technologies, the hardware that are used to kind of train and validate AI models at scale. And so we could use internal resources, but they're not sufficient for any given institution. So what we've basically bet is on the cloud, but we want to make those data as openly and as easy to access as possible. MyResearchCloud be available for all users. We really want to encourage citizen science. So anybody with a good idea should have access to all the data and sufficient computing power to develop any kind of AI models they want. And actually, this is very important. You never really know where the innovation is going to come from. You never really know where the next breakthrough is going to be implemented. So you want everybody, whether it's a student, a citizen scientist, a well-known AI researcher, a chemist, a biologist, name it, in any kind of institutions or industry to be able to participate. And that's where Computing for Humanity and MyResearchCloud are key resources to enable this. Only the biggest companies can afford the computing resources to actually train and improve those models, which kind of make it a bit of an elite an elite activity, but you don't really enable people from all over the world to innovate at the same way, because nobody can access to that amount of resources. So what we're trying to do here is to really kind of lower the barrier for entry so that everybody can participate. And we really want to avoid letting a few labs really leading the innovation. We want the whole world to be able to participate. And those AI models are actually interesting. Some require a lot of resources, but if you can implement very clever tricks to make them less computationally intensive. Something called frugal AI. So how to build AI models that are using less resources is very important from an ecological perspective, but it's also very important from an innovation perspective, so that we can maybe analyze more data in a faster way, but also enable anybody with low resources to kind of use those AI models. So a very, very active field of research that we're very excited about. And we really want to avoid only a few labs to be able that kind of research, but rather any kind of scientists or interested researchers in the world.
Many supporters of Computing for Humanity donate equipment, funds, or services because they want to contribute to scientific progress. What message would you share with those donors about the impact their support can have?
So if you support initiatives like Computing for Humanity and implement the MyResearchCloud instances all over the world, you are going to enable science at all levels. And again, it's very, very hard, if not impossible, to predict where the next breakthrough is going to come from. So by letting the whole world accessing the data and the computer resources they need, you really enable innovation at a much larger scale, and hopefully that's going to move the field of drug discovery much, much faster.
Looking ahead 5 to 10 years, what scientific breakthrough do you hope AI and large-scale computer will help make possible?
So the cutting-edge AI techniques are called agentic AI, where AI is really given a certain level of autonomy to perform complex experiments. And in a decade or so, probably a lot less, the vision is that AI will be able to run what we call self-driving labs, so that AI will make predictions and be able to implement the experiments in the physical world through a lab that is completely autonomous. And that's going to make the research a lot faster, in the sense that AI will make prediction, validate those predictions, observe the results, improve the model, and this cycle is going to be extremely fast and efficient. That's going to allow us to explore the chemical space in a much more efficient manner, to explore the space of therapeutic targets, so those proteins that are involved in human diseases, in a much more efficient way. And so that's really the future, and what we're trying to do within Target 2035, in collaboration with Computing for Humanity, is to kind of build a foundation for that, prove the concept, so that we can invest more in autonomous lab and hopefully make the pace of innovation much faster.
If there is one thing you would like the public to understand about the role of research, data, and computing in advancing human health, what would it be?
We have to invest in data. All the AI innovations are really relying on a strong foundation of data. So we have to make sure people understand how to properly manage their data, how to properly annotate and share those data in an open manner. So it's really this combination of good data management and the adoption of open science principle. That's the combo that is going to move science forward much, much faster. AI modeling will definitely make things really, really interesting, and the pace of innovation is really incredible. But you have to build that foundation so that we can fully realize the potential of AI. In my case, in the case of SGC, for drug discovery, but that is true for many other fields, from astrophysics to agriculture to space exploration. So it's really kind of this common principle. Unfortunately, we don't invest enough in data management and data sharing. Those are not really sexy initiatives to fund, but they're really foundational for good science to move forward.